In episode 2, we get some backstory on why the Duke cannot stand his father. Lord Hastings always wanted a son, and he finally got one in Simon. Lady Danbury was even there because she was best friends with Simon's mom. But Lord Hastings was such a jerk that he didn't even care that his wife had died in childbirth. All he cared about was that he had a son. Although he quickly turned on him, because the Duke was slow to learn how to speak, and when he did finally speak, he had a stutter. And this caused Lord Hastings great embarrassment to the point where he actually sent the Duke away, trying to hide him to hide the embarrassment. Lady Danbury got word about this and went to go check in on the Duke, feeling like she should do this because she was best friends with the Duke's mom. And the Duke was well aware of why his father didn't want anything to do with him. It was because he had a stutter and couldn't speak. But Lady Danbury vowed to get him to the point where he could speak fluently without a stutter. And she is able to kind of do that around the age of 9 or 10. She brings him back in front of Lord Hastings and says, "See, here's your son. He's not dead." And the Duke can speak really, really well until the final couple of sentences, he stutters once again. And Lord Hastings is so cold that he tells the Duke, "You are my greatest failure." Little Simon tells him, "I wrote you letters to let you know that I wasn't dead. Did you ever read them?" But Lord Hastings tells him, "Just knowing about the fact that you're going to take over Hastings one day is painful enough. Witnessing it in person, I couldn't bear to do that." So the guy was a complete asshole. But fast forward to when he's on his deathbed, he's completely changed his tune. Simon walks in and he tells him he's so happy that he's going to be taking the Hastings name over. But Simon hasn't forgotten. And right before his father passes away, he gets right next to his ear and tells him, "I will never marry," which means I will never have a son, which means that the Hastings name is going to die with me. Now, fast forward to present day, where Simon Hastings is simply trying to get the mothers off of his back, and he's doing that with Daphne, and they're haggling over how many balls they're going to be seen in public with each other. Daphne wanting 8, the Duke wanting 4, and they finally settle on 6, with the Duke having to send her flowers, the expensive kind, just to make it look like this whole charade is real. Her other big concern is the fact that no one can ever know what happened with Lord Berbrook the previous night. She's not embarrassed about the fact that she punched him. She's more worried about her reputation if it's found out that she was with him alone. And the Duke had no intention of revealing that secret, so it should be okay. After the picnic, everybody goes home, and the Bridgertons are kind of just hanging out when Eloise bursts through the door and says, "How does a woman become pregnant if she's not married?" Because Eloise was on a walk with Penelope when Penelope revealed to Eloise that somebody in their house, she didn't mention Marina, but somebody in her house was pregnant and she wasn't married. And this blew both of their minds. They have no idea how a baby is formed if you're not in a marriage. So Eloise needs to get to the bottom of this science experiment, but that is a conversation that Violet is not ready to have with her. She basically tells her, "Don't bring it up again." But that's when one of the Bridgerton help comes in the room and says that Daphne has some suitors. And Daphne is thrilled about this, but the other Bridgerton family members are a little puzzled because they can't figure out why Daphne even cares about other suitors when she's got a Duke after her. The family still has no idea about her arrangement with Simon, and neither does Lord Berbrook, who arrives at the house along with Antony, and he is pissed off that all of these men have suddenly shown up for the woman that he's planning on marrying. And Antony was completely taken off guard by this as well. He walks into basically a party going on in his house, and Berbrook is sitting there looking like an idiot. Antony tells Berbrook that he has to leave, and Berbrook shoots back, "You gave me your word," and Antony tells him, "And I plan on keeping it. You're the only one that's proposed, you're the only one I've considered. But right now, you have to leave, along with everybody else." And he kicks everybody out of the house, and then turns his attention to Violet. And Antony and Violet start getting in an argument about what he walked into, but Violet gets really annoyed when she finds out that Antony had promised Daphne's hand to Berbrook. Daphne, however, is no longer concerned, saying, "I have so many suitors now, Berbrook doesn't even matter." But Antony points out that's exactly what you have. You have suitors. You don't have proposals. You have one proposal, and it's from Berbrook. Violet, however, points out that Daphne is courting a Duke, and that's something that Antony is complete denial about. But both women point out that the Duke sent her flowers in the morning, the expensive kind. Antony, though, reiterates that the Duke is not a serious suitor he's never going to marry. And that's when Daphne tells him, "Well, I'm not marrying Berbrook." But Antony tells her that the paperwork is going to be drawn up and she will marry Berbrook. Antony storms out and Daphne's pretty upset, but Violet tries to calm her down, saying that as soon as Berbrook sees that the Duke is after her, he's going to have to back off. Antony, though, needs to get some answers, and he heads to have a conversation with the Duke and finds him in a boxing ring. And he yells at him for trying to hook up with his sister, asking, "Did you have any idea she was engaged to be married?" And the Duke says, "No, I had no clue." And he asks, "Has the paperwork been drawn up?" But Antony says, "Well, I assure you it's being drawn up." The two get into an argument about whether Berbrook is even worthy of marrying Daphne. And Antony ends up kind of insulting the Duke, saying that, well, at least he knows where Berbrook has been. he hasn't been in whorehouses or any kind of slum that the Duke has been in the last couple of years. Antony does feel bad about what he just said, but he tells the Duke, look, you've been a great friend, but this is my sister. I'm not trying to offend you, but family has to come first. Antony then leaves because he has to get ready for a ball that night. It's a ball that pretty much everybody needs to get ready for, including the Duke. But as the women of the Bridgerton household are getting ready, they get word that the Queen has invited Violet for tea in 2 days. And all of the women are thrilled about this invitation. So they're in a pretty good mood as they head off to the ball, where Antony escorts Daphne in, and the Duke escorts Lady Danbury in. But as soon as the Duke sees Daphne, he doesn't care that her brother is by her side. He asks her to dance. And Antony has no choice but to fall back. The Duke and Daphne start walking around the party together, and she explains how they're going to have to make Berbrooke believe that this thing is real, so he backs off. Berbrooke has to believe that the Duke is serious about proposing. And Berbrooke, by the way, is at this party, and he's got eyes on both of them like a hawk. Eventually, though, Antony is able to get the Duke alone and asks him, was I not clear with my message? And Simon tells him, no, you were very clear. You intend for your sister to marry a ferret. But that ferret, i.e. Lord Berbrooke, is actually right behind him because he has a private conversation, and I use private very loosely, with Antony. It's one of those conversations where he's having the conversation with Antony, but he really wants the Duke to hear it as well. And he reiterates his intention to marry Daphne. All the while, though, the Duke is throwing subtle jabs at Berbrooke, mainly about the fact that he got knocked out by Daphne the previous night. Antony assures Berbrooke that he'll, quote, handle the matter, and then he turns to the Duke and says that it's none of his concern. But the Duke tells Antony that Berbrooke's character isn't exactly squeaky clean and points out his black eye, telling Antony that he tried something in the previous night with Daphne, but she clocked him. And Antony just turns to Berbrooke and tells him, you will never speak to my sister again. Now, Daphne was in the other room, but she could tell a commotion was going on. So she walks in as Antony is walking out and asks, what happened? And Antony says, you don't have to worry about Berbrooke. He's not a problem anymore. And you would think that Daphne would be thrilled, but she's not. She walks up to the Duke knowing that he had a hand in this and yells at him for interfering, which is confusing the Duke because she wanted Berbrooke gone and he just did that. After the party, a very confused Duke is walking home, but he's being followed by Berbrooke. And Berbrooke pleads the Duke to back off. He says, you don't need her. You're a Duke. I do, though. But Simon is just trying to walk away, and that's when Berbrooke just needles him a little too much. He brings up the fact that maybe the Duke wants her because he already had her. And that's when Simon turns to Berbrooke and basically tells him, back off. It's a subtle threat, but Berbrooke doesn't get the message. He apologizes for what he did the previous night, but tells Simon, you should know all about men who have a lack of judgment. I've heard about your father and what he did once he found out your mother wasn't able to give him the son he always wanted. And that's one line crossed too many for Berbrooke, and Simon beats the ever-loving crap out of him. The next day, though, Lady Whistledown puts out yet another pamphlet because the word of the engagement to Berbrooke has gotten out after the little show that the Duke, Antony, and Berbrooke put on at the party. And this has Daphne really stressed out because the message in the pamphlet is, why would Daphne want Berbrooke when she has a Duke after her? She has to try to get over in a hurry because she has a picnic to attend to, and at the picnic, Antony comes up and apologizes, having no idea about what happened with Berbrooke. But she says, you wouldn't have believed me anyway. You only believed that story when a guy told you about it. You didn't care when I told you that I didn't want to marry Berbrooke. That wasn't good enough for you, was it? She then gets up and walks away because the Duke has shown up. But as the two are walking around, they see Lord Berbrooke and his messed up face coming in hot with a piece of paper. And he walks up to Antony and Violet and the rest of the Bridgerton gang and threatens them. That piece of paper in his hand is a marriage license. And he tells them that he is to marry Daphne. They are to sign off on it. And if they don't, he's going to tell everybody that Daphne was alone with him on the dark walk. And that won't just mess up Daphne's reputation, that'll mess up the entire Bridgerton reputation. And none of the Bridgertons believe that anything happened between Daphne and Berbrooke. So this leaves Antony so pissed off that he wants to challenge Berbrooke to a duel, which is pretty illegal. And Violet tells him, you're not doing that. And Daphne agrees with her mother, saying there's no point of doing that. I mean, what happens if Berbrooke speaks before you're able to shoot him? Word's out. He can speak at any moment. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to marry Berbrooke. And when she gets home, she's depressed and sad. And her mother comes to try to comfort her, telling her that marriage isn't all about the partner. Yes, that's a big part of it, but it's also about the family you have and the house you keep. And all of those things can bring you a lot of joy. But that doesn't really help Daphne because she saw the relationship that her parents had and the love that they had for each other, and she wants that. And marrying Berbrooke guarantees that that will never be the case. The two go off to bed, and the next day is a huge day for Violet. She's going to tea with the Queen. And when she arrives, the queen is banging lines of cocaine in between reading the latest Lady Whistledown pamphlet. But shortly after Violet arrives, the queen calls over one of her servants to get her some more cocaine. And when he leaves the room, the queen tells her that that guy is a huge gossip. If they were to speak freely, it would be all over England by the next day. They then start subtly discussing Daphne's situation with Berbrook, because the queen wants Daphne to marry a duke. The queen basically gave Daphne her stamp of approval, and she knows that it would also be a really bad look for the queen if Daphne marries Berbrook instead of a duke. It's a huge ego trip, but there's a method behind the queen's madness of inviting her there that day, because when that guy gets back, Violet notices that he's kind of making a face to the woman that Violet brought. And that's what Violet realizes, that she has to invite Berbrook's mom over. So she does that. And Berbrook's mom is really delusional and pretty rude to Daphne. But she didn't invite Berbrook's mom over to actually have pleasantries with her. She invited her over so that the Bridgerton help could get dirt on Berbrook from Berbrook's help. And as soon as Berbrook's mom leaves, she gets the lowdown from the staff that Lord Berbrook had an illegitimate child with one of the help, and sent not only the female away, but also the child away, who he's ignored, never paid child support for, and if this word got out, it would be a terrible look. So Violet knows she needs to get that secret out ASAP. Now, they all know that no one's going to believe a woman with this story, but there is one woman who everybody will believe, and it's Lady Whistledown. So they need to have this rumor spread so much that it gets to the ears of Lady Whistledown. And they do that. They start spreading it through all the help, and when the next pamphlet comes out, Lady Whistledown writes about Lord Berbrook's illegitimate child. And that should take care of the Berbrook situation. Because that night, as Violet is kind of soaking in her glory, Antony walks in, letting her know that Berbrook has left town. But he also knows that this isn't a coincidence. He tells his mother, "I'll make sure this never happens again." But Violet basically fires him, saying that while society dictates that you be the man of the house and you be in charge, I am fully capable of dealing with Daphne and her future husband. So unfortunately for Antony, he gets let go, which is a good thing because he's been doing a terrible job. Now, the next day, Daphne is thrilled about this news. She's getting ready for a party when Eloise walks in. And Eloise has been kind of conflicted watching her older sister go through this pomp and circumstance. Because Eloise wants more for her life. She wants to go to university, even though women aren't allowed to. She hates the fact that this proposal season is supposed to be the highlight of a woman's life. And while it seems like it's enough for her sister, she definitely wants more. Her sister, though, just wants to find a husband. And when she goes to the ball that night, she's escorted in by the Duke, and they start having a conversation about how to make this charade more believable, which is a trend with them. But the latest idea that Daphne has is that they have to start calling each other by their real name. During this dance, though, they get dangerously close to kissing. I mean, real close. But once the song ends, Daphne gets asked to dance by somebody else, and the Duke falls back. And as he's standing there, Lady Danbury comes up and she can tell that something's wrong with the Duke. And while he denies it, it seems like the Duke is starting to have feelings for Daphne Bridgerton. Now, one person who's been noticeably absent from these parties and these picnics is Marina. And the Featherington girls have found out the reason why she's not going to these parties, the fact that she's pregnant. But Penelope wanted some more information about how somebody has a child out of wedlock, the horror. So she brings Marina some food and asks how it happened. And Marina explains that she fell for a guy at church. They started talking led to food led to something. And he's all fighting a war, but they stayed in contact through letters. And she's in love with him. So she tells Penelope that the baby was made out of love, which doesn't exactly answer Penelope's question about where babies come from. It's adorable how ignorant she is. But Marina has basically been sequestered. And as she's writing the baby's father a letter, one of the Featherington help comes in to give her food, and she says, "Are you planning on keeping me here the whole time?" But the help basically tells her that you have no one to blame but yourself. Thanks for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Like the video if you liked it. Hit thumbs down if you don't. Be nice in the comments section. Nasty comments hurt my feelings. I work hard on these. If I make a mistake, it happens. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen, it'll be up soon. Sharing is caring. Put it on your MySpace page or your away message. And check out my podcast, Scene Invaders, wherever you listen to podcasts.